Factory Ford cylinder heads. The pickings are kind of few and far between nowadays. With Dart used to make a factory head or replacement head 180, 200, 215. That's not available anymore in cast iron. World Products availability is kind of shaky. We've been modifying the 289, 302, 351 Windsor Ford factory heads for quite some time. They're real popular for road race applications and mostly performance street vehicles where people want to keep the original look of the factory cylinder heads. So we have a couple of real excellent CNC programs for the 302, the 289, and the 351 Windsor. Pretty extensive programs. They take about 4 hours a head to run, so they're not for the faint at heart as far as an investment is concerned, but it's an excellent piece. Airflow wise, most of these heads flow in a 125, 130 CFM range on the exhaust in stock form, and we get them up to about 150, 160. The exhaust ports on the Fords are notoriously kind of poor. The intake side, especially on like the 351 Windsor, this intake port's about 130 cc's in stock form. We open it up to about 150 to 155. Airflow goes from about 165, 170 to a little bit over 200. So it's a huge improvement on the 351 Windsor. So we take the port openings out to 1250 Felpro size. There's a 1250 and a 1262 would be the larger one. We can't get out that big on these particular heads. And as far as the porting work, everything is ported that we can port. These are thin castings, so we can't go too crazy, but we're taking 20 cc's out of the intake port, which is huge. And down inside the port, we actually remove the valve guide boss on the intake side and the exhaust side, and we press bronze guide in from the top, so they look kind of like the aftermarket aluminum heads. So it's about the most we can get out of these things, but they're sweet running. Guys that run the Fords, there's not a lot of them in the circle track area. Even though the heads are decidedly smaller than the Chevrolets, they run extremely well, Fords. And one thing about the Ford castings, I mean, we've been dealing with these 50-year-old castings for 50 years, and the Ford heads that were produced in the 60s and 70s are much better casting quality than the Chevrolet double hump and straight plug heads. But as far as the guides, this is how it's finished off. The bronze guide is pushed in from the top and the valve job is done, and it's an excellent piece. We go ahead and we machine them for screw and studs and tap them. So as far as working on your Ford heads or supplying heads, we sometimes do have castings in stock if that's the direction that you want to go in your circle track application, vintage application, or performance street vehicle.